So this is our final oral presentation for our FYS Filmist Philosophy. Our group consists of Kyan Hamilton, Damian Hickman, Taylor Leffler, and Lainey Nicholson. Starting off, we're going to distinguish between the movement image and time image film. Starting off with movement image films, they present a future where no change is needed. This usually happens because solutions to problems aren't ever really questioned. The solutions to those problems are, without a question, usually the right ones through the eyes of the movement image. Um, Usually, actions in the film have a cause and effect relationship, which usually consists of an action reaction pattern. An example of this is like a bad guy does some bad stuff, and then the good guy will intervene to save the day. This is because movement films focus on the actions and their direct effect. Problems in movement image films always have solutions, and the solution to this action is usually always right. Movement image films present an indirect image of time. This is because movement image films present a future where no change is needed after the story ends. And as a result, these films ultimately drive our thoughts into a particular direction. And this leaves the viewer with very few questions at the end of the film and leaves very few room for interpretation. On the contrary, time image films, they present a future where change is needed, and at the end of the film, there's plenty of interpretation for different ideas. Time image films more focused on the process and the journey of characters, not the actions of the characters that they take. Time image films, the problems in these films almost always don't have solutions, and if they do, they're usually not undeniably right, and there's plenty of room for interpretation. Um, Time image films also present a direct image of time. This is because at the end of the film, no or change is still needed. There's no ever after. This is more reminiscent of real life, where like change is always happening, it's inevitable, and as a result, time image films ultimately open viewers up to have our own thoughts. This is because time image films open up the past, therefore open up the present and future, and there's less focus on the actions, but seeing the direct images. Now switching over to Deleuze's ideas on the importance of film. Gilles Deleuze was a French film philosopher who adopted many important film concepts we know today. He treated films as a direct event or experience. This direct event allowed viewers to focus on the sensations and direct emotional affect of the film. And because of this, Deleuze referred to. He also saw film as the brain as the screen, and because of this, referred to the film as its own brain that displays images that the viewers then experience themselves, which brings forth different sensations and emotional affect on the viewers. Uh, Deleuze also believed that film analyzed film through his concept of schizoanalysis, and through schizoanalysis, it allowed him to operate free from cultural norms and then see these cultural norms as a grand delusion of society. And after this, it allows you to freely embrace and operate upon your desires, which, when we tap into our desires, it allows us to tap into our unique creativity, which allows us to further make and associate. He also believed that film grants us agency to distinct between reality and fiction, and this distinction allows the viewers to then, in turn, be further affected by film, and leads to the schizoid experience that allows us to think differently.
The movement image produces thought in viewers by telling them how to feel and what to think. This means that viewers cannot form their own thoughts for themselves. They also aim to suppress thought. In movement image films, there are always clearly defined good guys and bad guys. We are supposed to always agree with the good characters and believe that they are always right in the decisions that they make. Viewers are forced to agree with whatever the film is telling us, even though we would not morally agree with these things normally. The only way to form original, new thoughts as a viewer is through self reflection. Viewers need to break free from thinking like the film and to reflect on what the viewer actually believes. The Magnificent Seven is a good example of the movement image film. The good versus evil, or in The Magnificent Seven, the heroes versus the villains, are easily determined. Hero shots determine who is the hero and who is the villain, and are shot up at the character, making them appear stronger and more heroic. Heroes are also have a hero stance that make them appear more heroic than other characters and are shown in a warm, natural lighting, while villains are shown in a dark lighting with red and blue hues. This film leads us away from thought because viewers are led to agree with the actions of the good main characters just because they are the good characters. This film is an example of the large form of an action image. The formula of the large form is SAS, which stands for situation, action, and then another new situation. The large form of an action image includes the milieu, or the setup of a dramatic narrative that the characters originally find themselves in, and their modes of behavior, which are the ways characters respond to the situations. Every character has their own motivation in The Magnificent Seven. Chisholm's actions were motivated by revenge. Faraday's actions were motivated by the reward of money offered by Emma, and Bogue was motivated because he wanted to take control of Rose Creek and the gold that was located within. The duel at the end of the film is resolved by Emma killing Bogue and saving Rose Creek. As viewers, we believe that everything is done correctly, even though there are so many deaths. This is due to the American dream. The American dream is a fascist technique that assures viewers that good always wins. There is so much killing in The Magnificent Seven that viewers are led to not care about the deaths of people that they never come to know because they are known as the bad guys, and the bad guys must always die. Movement image films are created in such a way that make viewers believe good is always good and bad is always bad, and that there is no in between.
Time image films open us up to new becomings and free us to think new thoughts by refraining from judgment, meaning that time image films don't direct their viewers' thoughts to a certain belief. Instead, they make their viewers develop their own thoughts. Time image films do this by having a problem that cannot be solved. This means that there are no happily ever after endings in time image films. This causes viewers to think about what happens in the future after the film ends, such as whether or not the future will turn out good or bad. Time image films also focus more on the process or journey rather than the ending. This allows viewers to see why something has happened and form their own thoughts about it. An example of this is in the film Joker. We see why Arthur starts to kill people, and because of this, some viewers would support him while others would resent him. A good example of a time image film that refrains from judgment is the film Joker. In the film Joker, the virtual and the actual are blurred to the point that they are indistinguishable. An example of this is Arthur's and Sophie's relationship, which we think is real until the film reveals to us that it is all Arthur's delusion. This causes viewers to go back and start to question if parts of the film actually happened or were another delusion. When the viewers reflect on the film, they notice similarities between the film's society and our society, such as Gotham feeling like a real city. This causes viewers to eventually see our society for how it actually is, with all the societal norms that diminish people, such as needing to attend college to be able to do well in life. When viewers can clearly see how our society works, then they can think their own thoughts that are not influenced by society.
Another great example of a time image film is Only Lovers Left Alive. This is different than Joker in how it produces thought and the fact that it does not utilize the virtual and the actual, but it does introduce a concept known as the body without organs, or the BWO. And before we delve too much into the BWO, it's important to know that this is a state that the viewer cannot become, but rather accept. And if the viewer does, in fact, accept the body without organs, they are taken to somewhat of an interstitial state, which is one between real and unreal, so it's neither reality nor unreality. And in this state, they are emptied of their notions of reality and reduced to degree zero, and they experience zeroness, or emptying out, as it is called. Within this zeroness, viewers have a greater awareness of space, movement, and duration, which leads them to be emptied of their previous notions of reality and therefore produce new notions of reality or new thought. And they are free to break away from society and its norms, and instead of thinking all of the thoughts that society has placed on them, viewers are allowed to think their own. And this goes into what a character feels or sees will not always lead to actions they will take, unlike the movement image. So in time image films, it's heavily focused more so on the unexpectedness versus movement image films that focus on actions and reactions of characters. So with the unexpectedness of time image films and characters' choices, viewers are able to see and experience the world as characters do, just because they're able to place themselves in the character's shoes and therefore decide what they would do if they were the characters. In Only Lovers Left Alive, the biggest relation point was interpreting time as a vampire would. So, by way of accepting the body without organs, viewers were given the chance to form our own opinions on what life would be like if we, in fact, had immortal lives, just like the two main characters, Adam and Eve. Adam had a very pessimistic view on life, and he was in the state that if he had already seen everything that he had already experienced and that's all life was, then he just didn't want to deal with it and life was terrible. And then Eve, on the other hand, had a very positive outlook on life, and she thought that by living an immortal life, she could just re-experience all the things that made her fall in love for the first time. So as viewers, we were able to relate to either Adam or Eve and then decide how we would react if we had a immortal life. All of the slides we have gone over so far, as well as all of the movie examples, have just going to show how important film is in the 21st century. So movement image and time image films, though they produce thoughts in two different types of ways, they both lead viewers to think for themselves. And by this, we are able to, as viewers, look up to characters and how they respond to certain situations and place ourselves in their shoes to see how we would respond to certain situations. This leads to a lot of self-reflection because, especially in a lot of movement image films, viewers are led to think a certain way, but upon reflection after the movie, viewers will realize that they may have agreed to something that in real life they morally would never have agreed to. So then this opens up a path to rediscovering ourselves through the thoughts we think, and we're able to question normalities and biases society has placed on us, and therefore break away from those and think our own thoughts. And all of these film effects are due to how films influence viewers. So every film has the power to affect a different viewer in a different way and therefore induce change, which films have the power to make change accepted rather than fear, which leads to reformation and renewal of society's ingrained standards. And that is ultimately what is so special about films, especially with how they relate back to the 21st century. In today's society, it's more important than ever to hold true to our values and to just be ourselves, even if we are being told otherwise. As such, we are free to become something new and something greater than ourselves.